Good morning, everyone. This is Chris Korupati. With me is my colleague Manish Mathur. Today's session will be covering digital workflows for quality management excellence. The goal of these workflows is to make quality is everyone's responsibility a reality in the organization and the supply chain. Thank you for taking the time to join today. The agenda is roughly divided into three parts. In the initial part, we will be introducing ourselves as well as cover some of the quality management challenges that we have observed and how workflow-driven approach can improve the situation. We will briefly highlight a case study as an example so that you understand and you can see how workflow-driven approaches are implemented by organizations. We will also give you a short demo to show some of the core concepts around how workflow can be used to improve and achieve quality management excellence. The last 10 minutes or so of the hour, we'll leave it for Q&A. So in terms of Q&A, there is a Q&A tab on your Zoom bar. Please go ahead and type in your question or a point that when the topic is going on, because it's very likely that you'll have a question as we are covering the various topics. So what we will do is towards the end of the session, look at all the questions and answer as many as we can during the hour that we have today. And if there are any questions that we are unable to answer, we will answer via email or when the recording is completed and Zoom sends it to us, we will package everything, including this presentation, the recording of the webinar, as well as answers to the questions so that you have everything intact. Of course, you always have an opportunity to communicate via email if you have any additional questions. Okay, so with that, a brief intro. So we are an organization that is based out of California, Northern California, with offices in different parts of the country. We primarily work with organizations that are heavily involved in manufacturing supply chain activities in the industries that you see here, including now, pharma and food manufacturing. And most of our team comes from the operation side with quite a bit of experience in technology that supports the manufacturing and supply chain. Okay. And in terms of our background of the panelists, I am Chris Korupati. I have over 20 plus years of experience in all the aspects of design, manufacturing, and supply chain. With me is Manish, similar expertise, worked at automotive industries and software industries, and quite a bit of experience, supporting these operations with software solutions. Okay. So one of the things that we've observed, as we work with our customers in various environments, whether it is design or manufacturing or working with the supply chain to design plus manufacture products and deliver them. One of the things that we observed is quality is, making quality everyone's responsibility is a substantial challenge. And we'll see why, it happens regardless of various initiatives. And three main reasons that stick out generally is even today, quality is seen as the responsibility of only the quality department. It's something goes wrong, something is not quite measuring up in terms of quality. The first department that is looked at and pointed to is quality department. And that's often is not the right way to approach it. So we'll see some of the core reasons why this happens. And of course, as everyone knows, the consequences are generally uniformly bad. when things happen with respect to quality. Okay. And unfortunately, we see it all the time that the cost of poor quality is significantly more than cost of quality. And you can see, how the allocation is done with respect to what are the costs of poor quality, everything that you see on the plant floor in the supply chain or with customers. And these are even more expensive, right? So you can see the cost of quality, and everything you do to ensure good quality would be the cost of good quality, right? So generally, the cost of quality, as you can see the numbers here, is substantially higher than what you would spend to achieve good quality. And some of the core reasons why that we've seen quality is everyone's responsibility is hard to achieve is most companies, most organizations have very elaborate QMS documentation, right? Procedures, processes, there is document control around that QMS procedures, all of that. The unfortunate thing is to ask people, especially cross-functional teams, do what is documented as a procedure is very, very hard. And there is a lot of room for slippage there. Right? Actual practice varies from what is expected. And the big obstacle really is it sometimes takes extraordinary effort from people to follow a documented procedure. So all of those are cause real friction, right, to make that happen. The second big reason why we think this is a problem is cross-functional teams and systems are disconnected. If you have a quality management system or a CRM system or a supply chain system, there is just generally no proper connections or no continuous flow of information between those systems and the people and between the systems and the people, right? So that's a big, big problem. And the procedure, or rather the coordination required to make corrective and preventive actions happen effectively and in a timely manner is also something that makes it hard to achieve. Quality is everyone's responsibility, right? And of course, as you all know, anything that goes out of the four walls of the organization, and if the responsibility lies with your suppliers, it's even more difficult to achieve. Quality is everyone's responsibility, right? So these are some major reasons why we see the goal of quality is everyone's responsibility is hard to achieve, right? And so if you think about it, there are the process and information silos that continue to exist today are a big problem because many of the workflows, what we see and information is really cross-functional, right? Cuts across the whole organization and in many cases the supply chain. So anytime you have process or information silo that creates these walls, it becomes hard. Of course, the other big issue that we just discussed is you have all these different systems where quality events are tracked or quality information is embedded. And because we are not connected, the people are not connected, the systems are themselves not connected sometimes, the goal of achieving the quality is everyone's responsibility becomes hard. So that's are some of the major issues that we have seen. And one very effective approach that we have seen that can be used to overcome these difficulties that we talked is how do you setting up like what we call cross-functional workflows. And these cross-functional workflows have to achieve several things. One is, they can be initiated by anyone. It cannot be just quality management department starting all of this. It can be the whole organization, or even anyone from the supply chain should be able to initiate, and even systems should be able to initiate these workflows. It should bring in the right people at the right time proactively. So people don't have to take extraordinary efforts to make it happen, the coordination that is required. Best would be if proper quality tools are integrated and techniques are directly within the workflow. It would be ideal from a change perspective or adoption perspective. And the workflows also should be connected to various systems, right? From design systems, supply chain, your CRM, your ERP, so that information and the processes flow in a very seamless fashion. So these are some major, I would say, key capabilities that would help you achieve this quality is everyone's responsibility. Okay. And of course, there are lots of different workflows that you can use. There are some cross-functional, what we call quality and continuous improvement tools that can benefit from this approach. These include this list here from CAPA to audits, inspections, everything in between. And then there are scenarios that are very specific to certain functional areas, which can be initiated from there, but they flow through the whole organization and the supply chain. Okay, these are some examples. By and large, most of our customers take what they have in terms of quality management, QMS documentation procedures, and implement them as cross-functional workflows to achieve alignment with the organization, what they have as a QMS system within the organization. So you can use very standard scenarios as well as implement your own based upon your QMS documentation. Okay, so given that, what I will want to do is quickly take you through a case study on how something like this is done. And then we will go into the demo in terms of how you can put all of the things that we are talking about into action. Okay. So the case study here is of an organization, a manufacturing organization that has substantial footprint, right, in terms of plants and DCs and stores, right? They are their own stores as well as certain customer storage locations. Okay, so when certain failure event happens, when the organization finds out, hey, there's a product issue that we need to resolve, right? This happens everywhere in every company that manufactures and ships it to customers, right? And then what you need to do is really understand where that affected product is and how do we get it back or take certain actions so that we are resolving issues with that product. So before it goes into the customer, it's all intact. So there are lots of decisions to be made. As you can see, given that footprint of this organization, lots of people involved, and a lot of work needs to happen, both from a communication perspective as well as actual activity in terms of corrective actions or immediate actions perspective. And of course, because of the compliance and other reasons, everybody needs to verify it, document it, and use this information as a source of intelligence as you improve the product in the next cycle around. Okay, so this is a picture that we have, and you can see how this is done from an as-is standard operating procedure, right? So today, if you were to look, the as-is procedure includes, once a product issue is found, people go around and find out all the affected serial numbers. Then people have to go around and run those transactions. Where exactly are all the serial numbers within the distribution network, right? Where are they located? Some of the things that they also have to do is, move the product out from a regular distribution area to like a quality hold area, right? Those happen through various ERP solutions, warehouse management solutions. Sometimes people have to just take a piece of paper and do it. So there's actual work involved, both systematically from a system perspective and an actual work activity perspective. So once we know from the systems, where these items are located, you can do some bin-to-bin movements if you have a warehouse management system. And then you would actually email all the relevant people saying, okay, now you need to go ahead and dispose of based upon what the product issue and the resolution is. Right? So there are, in many cases, immediate resolution and final resolution, like what we call immediate disposition and final disposition. Some of this could be repairing the small thing and then putting it back to normal distribution channel, or some of it is like, hey, we need to bring it back to the manufacturing plant. Sometimes you might decide, okay, we're just going to scrap it. So there are lots of things that happen on once it is found. So that again, you have to coordinate with everyone and make sure that they're actually doing it, provide some instructions. Once they've finished it, they get the verification information that they've completed whatever the disposition, the actions are requested, and then you document all of that. So this happens to be a very, very long process, as that if you were the as-is situation involved like 3 to 6 months, 10 to 20 people involved, and the chance of product making it to customer unfortunately remained pretty high, right? And if a defective product, as you know, ends up in the customer channel, it is a very, very expensive proposition. And not only is it expensive to recover from it, but it's also a very bad experience for customers, right? So damaging the brand. This as-is process is actually converted it into a digital workflow-based process. And we'll show you how that looks. And what had happened based upon the digital workflow is that once the product issue is reported, the investigation identifies the serial numbers. The system automatically workflow approach, then we'll show you the environment and the demo, directly calls the systems like the WMS system. So that's why we were talking about, you need to be able to communicate, integrate with various systems that play a role in quality procedures and or initiate information about quality, right? So calls SAP directly, locates where the product is based upon the serial number. Sometimes it's in DC, sometimes it's still in plants, sometimes it's in the store area, right? If they're all managed within SAP and WMS systems, you can find where they are and issue those movement transactions automatically, right? No need for people to go around looking for the correct screen and transaction and doing, putting information and doing that task. So once we know where the plant is located and issued the disposition, like movement actions, move away from normal flow into the hold area. You can also, the workflow also communicates to the people at the location saying, okay, this is the initial action. Once you're done, go fix it using whatever instructions that there are from a complete disposition action perspective. That could be anything between maybe doing small fixes to shipping it back to the plant or even scrapping it, right? Once that is done, send the verification automatically, as that work is done, captures the verification and then documents it and finished, right? So this is all now then finished in 2 to 3 weeks. Like all you need is 1 to 2 coordinators for this one. And the defective products are moved out of the normal distribution channel very quickly, right? So there is a dramatic improvement both in terms of the work, the coordination it takes, and the end result, right? Of what used to be a very tedious process and somewhat expensive to something that is orchestrated by the workflow, okay, with one or two people coordinating the whole workflow itself. So that's the advantage that you'd have. It gives you the good picture of the type of advantages that you can achieve using a workflow-based approach to many of the quality management processes that you have. Okay, and just to give you some screenshots, we'll see that in the demo. So there are a lot of stuff that happens automatically. The communication has happened through workflows, and then the actual completion is also tracked within the workflow. And everything is finished quickly and pretty easily. So it's also very, very convenient for people. Now people have they're primarily coordinating and orchestrating as opposed to doing the very minimal, or I would say very intensive tasks that are associated to it. Let the workflow system do the job for you, right? So that's how you can achieve or approach this situation. So what we are going to do now that you've seen the example of how workflow-based approaches can be used, what I'll do is show you a quick demo of the solution, a workflow-based approach looks like. And within this demo, we are going to look at three major scenarios. One is because we are saying this is all workflows, all quality management processes can be cross-functional, can be initiated by anyone, can be involved anyone that is within the organization that is relevant. So we'll first look at how do you address any major, minor quality issues that spring up in different areas. In the second part of the demo, we'll look at, given that there's a failure, how do you learn from failure? How do you make sure that you put in place some action so that it doesn't happen again? And in the third scenario, we'll look at how suppliers can be a natural part of these workflows. You don't have to think of suppliers as someone that is over the wall, throw stuff over the wall. They could be as much a part of your organization as they should be using these workflows. So we'll look at all these three examples, and during this demo, we'll be covering various topics. So if you have any questions, please type it into the Q&A tab. Okay. So I'm now going into the browser. Okay. So I'll be using a right-hand browser and a left-hand browser. Okay, the right hand is what your organization, everyone within your organization sees, and the left hand is what the supply chain participants see, right? If your supplier partners that are going to be working with you on various aspects of quality or even supply chain and new product introductions, etc., they can also participate, be members of the various workflows that are relevant for them. Okay, so I'm going to get back here, expand this browser, and I'll give you a quick overview of how workflow-driven approaches come to the aid of quality management, or help you achieve what we are calling it quality is everyone's responsibility, right? As you can see, there are different sections in the application here, workflow application. There is cross-functional. We call cross-functional any tool that can be used by anyone to address any quality issue, irrespective of function, right? Even your IT can use some of these things, or your customer service can also use these types of scenarios, right? So these are what we call cross-functional tools. And there are more specific workflows and techniques that are available for design functions, for supply chain, for customer quality oriented approaches, manufacturing, and of course, since we are saying, it's really involves anyone and anybody. The product engineering and component engineering are also part of the overall landscape from a quality management perspective. Okay, so one thing is, we want to make sure, we want to allow anyone and anybody to be able to initiate these workflows. It doesn't have to be just quality management department. So that means, if I'm, coming from a customer service department, or I'm sitting in a store or a DC, I have a quality issue, I should be able to raise it. So let's look at an example how someone can raise a quality issue, right? So I'm going to, another example that we'll see is other systems can also raise quality issues. And we'll see one example of that. Okay, so I want to raise a quality issue. I select new, and this could be coming from, let me relog in here. Okay. All right, so it says prepare and submit and gives you clear instructions, what to do. Make it very, very, the goal is to make it very simple. It's say, hey, we have a customer complaints about, and this can be even filled in using like a mobile browser, etc. Right? Customer complaints about overheating. Product is Avalon Bay. Part number is, and this is some of this is functional, some of this is required, some of this is not required, right? So we can make that thing, and then you can, in terms of if you want to be able to make some initial assessments, you can also do that, right? You can say, did the customer affected? Yes. Did harm occur? No. Okay, and then we are done. And I'm going to submit it now. So you want to make it as simple as possible. In many of our cases, customers, people don't even have to log in. This form is available across the organization, so people can just come in and fill it, and then as a guest and submit it. So make it simple would be our question, our recommendation. Okay, so any workflow that we are designing here has a number of elements. First is, how should this workflow be executed? So a good situation here is, you may have this very well defined in a document as a QMS procedure that says, hey, people can submit it. It'll all be in a very nicely described Word document. That is not helpful. So what we did is took that and then designed it as a workflow. So as you can see, you can take any of your procedure and actually create a workflow out of it. And once and it could be lots of conditionals and who are the different people that can come and do it. Once that is done, we actually go ahead and define the roles. Who is the people that are involved in this? So as you can see, we have R&D to quality engineering, quality board. These are the roles that play a part in this workflow. And you can also determine who are the members that will play that role, right? So it can be predetermined, or you can determine this on the fly depending upon the situation, right? And then we have assigned which activity is performed by which role, right? So we said assessment will be done by quality engineering. Follow-on action will also be done by quality engineering. Approval for the issue, whatever the next steps are, will be done by quality board, right? Engineering manager. And then the system determines if we need to create fast track or external CAPA for this, if it is even needed. Because we did look at the workflow step. If it is needed, we'll do it. Otherwise, we can skip it. Okay. So that's how the workflow is designed to execute. Okay. So now I'm going to submit this. So once I submit it, the workflow takes over and it moves to the next. Proactively involves the right people, which is the quality engineer. In this case, the quality engineer, one of the quality engineer is, you look at the member, me, okay? And I will actually get an email. It says, hey, you need to look at this quality issue. It's a customer complaint. Please click here and go ahead and do that. Right. So the moment actually, I'm going to be logging in and showing you. So this proactive involvement of people, cross-functional teams, is done via email, so that they get notified. You can, of course, they have repeat notifications if people are forgetting to do it. So prompts people, sends additional emails. So all of that is standard from a workflow management perspective. So now what I'm going to do is logging in as that person who just got it. So I'm going to log in as okay. I can see, right? So it's a customer complaint. It says, okay, now I can just go ahead and make that based upon the information that was sent. So there could be a lot of other additional information like attachments and data from part, forms, all of that could also be there. But here in this case, I'm going to make an initial, after getting all the information, background, I can make an assumption saying, severity of this is, somewhat minor, occurrence probability is remote. So you can make that as an initial assessment. Okay, so it's occasional, initial risk is low, potential for user error, no, because it's all overheating, right? Investigation is required, and kappa is, I will say, no, it's not required. Okay, so I'm going to complete it, immediate action. This is to be done by others, so we don't need to do it. So this is the initial assessment done. And I'm going to complete this, right? Okay, so the follow-on action is also given to the same team. So we can look at it. Follow-on action is kappa type is no kappa. I'm just going to go ahead and immediate action is get the investigate. So no, nothing yet. So we're going to fill that in and finish it. So now, based upon all the initial assessment, it's actually with the quality board. So engineering manager is the actual quality board member here. Could be more than one, depending upon different roles, multiple people providing the quality board approval review, right? So that's how. So we are done here. I'm going to go back as an admin and then look at it. So I'm the one that initiated this, so I can look at it. So it's at the quality board approval. So as you can see, you can approve it, or quality board can say, hey, you need to redo the assessment. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and approve it, and this workflow is finished. So because we said there is no need for kappa, it skipped it and notified people, and we are done with it, right? So simple approach, the workflow drove the whole process and moved it forward. Now, if you look at these different quality issues here, for example, some of them, so you want to create this big bucket of, hey, all the quality issues that the company sees, especially with respect to product or manufacturing, they can route it here, and you can, as a centralized department, you still have everyone in the organization part of it, but as a group or as a cross-functional team, you can also guide the different paths. So let's look at one example here, right? This is a poor customer review quality issue. Okay, and then the product information is there. So this is, and then you may be wondering, how did this actually get started? Right? Did the person start, or did it start by something else? So as you can see here, we actually have a source of this quality issue, which is an actual customer review. As you know, if you have any, I'm sure everyone on the session buys stuff from Amazon. There are a lot of reviews on Amazon, and some of them are pretty informational, very, very useful for the organization to understand quality issues. Okay, one such example here is this one, right? As some portable ice maker. This is the review actually. And then the star rating is 1, verified purchased. And whenever a product, when you get a star rating of 1 in Amazon, it's like a major thing. It needs to be really looked at from an overall process perspective. Why did this happen? What are we going to do about it? Because that has a direct impact on sales. Not only sales, but follow on customers. Customers are not very happy, right? So you need to definitely understand. So the system here actually got this info from Amazon and then created a workflow out of it. Said, okay, this is this thing, and it actually has a workflow within people. So the members like marketing, product manager, quality engineer, they come together and make an assessment. And then if it is important enough that they actually will raise a quality issue out of it, right? So that's how this quality issue came about, based upon a core customer review, right? So as we saw, any of these failure, what we call failure events, or you can call it quality events, field failure, non-conformance, returns, customer complaint, product quality, poor customer reviews. These are all, in our opinion, quality events that happen, right? You need to understand from these quality events whether you should raise a quality issue and continue on from an investigation and resolution perspective. So these what we call connected workflows, allow you to really kind of, make it a triage area, do a proper assessment, and continue on from a corrective action, preventive action, implementation perspective. Make sure that this doesn't happen again if it is serious enough, right? So these workflows really actually drive you to do that. So I'm going to give you a couple more examples. So in this case, this quality issue, don't know where it came from, or it actually started here. People came in and getting kinked or obstructed adverse event report. So this actually came from an adverse event report, right? And this one is customer affected. It's a critical severity. And while the occurrences probability is remote, there is a reason risk is high, medium enough that you want to do investigation, CAPA, and what type of CAPA do you want to do, right? So out of this quality issue, we actually, based upon the workflow that was defined, there was an actual external CAPA that was done, right? There was a team member involved. There was actual risk assessment, holistic risk assessment done. There was root cause analysis that were performed. Part of the root cause analysis is a fishbone that was done, right? There was identified corrective preventive actions, okay? And, from a completion perspective, what should be done, whether they're finished or not from a status, and actual any document and SOP updates. So if you think about it, there is a whole lot of activity because of the severity of that quality issue and then the follow-on action that needed. And a lot of things that happened. So, so depending upon the type of issue, major, minor, you may want to follow a path using these workflows so that the issues are properly resolved. Okay, so this one is a fast track CAPA. Same thing, alarm volume is too high. harm did not occur. So there was a really quick CAPA, which is, small things, right? Just a work instruction for nurses to reduce the volume. So simple thing, right? So depending upon the severity, major, minor quality issue, you can follow a path that is most appropriate. But the goal is to capture everything, understand what is important, what can be done quickly, what requires uh, very extensive due diligence and follow-on activities. Okay. So what we're going to do is next is you've already seen certain examples, but it does, failures do happen. What you need to be able to do is understand how can we, really look at the root causes. What are some of the techniques that you can use for root causes? How can you actually implement corrective actions? And then make sure those corrective actions, not just documenting corrective actions, but go all the way through from an implementation perspective. So we will look at one such scenario. So let's still go back to this external CAPA, right? Actually, let me take you through a corrective action approach that will really help you understand, what happens from an overall perspective, right? Overall learning from failure perspective. So if you notice this corrective action, it has a very elaborate process. Depending upon what your QMS procedure or what path you want to take, you can design it so that you do a very thorough investigation, why analysis, root causes, and actual implementation of countermeasures, and so on. And you may, at the end of the day, your customers may have to sign off on some of this, right? So you get all of that finished as part of this workflow. So when people submit initial corrective actions or issues, one of the things that you would do is, identify a team. The team will conduct why analysis. They will conduct root cause breakdown analysis. They will identify, what the countermeasures that they need to select and implement, what the overall scores are of those. And then you would actually go ahead and once the implementation is done, any updates and get their actual approvals, etc. So you can set up this process in such a manner. And during each of those steps, okay, people would be using various tools. So in this case, one of the things that we have implemented is a fishbone diagram way of handling this. So you can actually, people will come in and look at all the, use this method. And this is something that you can actually implement based upon your definition of how this should be done, right? So if you look at the major causes here at the fishbone level are these 6 is what this organization highlighted. And under each of those areas, you can have various causes, right? So this is a very traditional way of doing, fishbone-based approach. Okay, you can also do FMEA-based approaches right? So there is a concept of prevention score, detection score, and use that method to actually design countermeasures, select and design countermeasures. All right, for each of these countermeasures, you also want to assign it to a responsible person who should be involved or get involved in the workflow, and they will actually complete it using different methods, whether it's inspection or audits, right? And these can actually have separate workflows themselves. And then they will be doing, actual procedures in terms of updates, right? Work instruction procedure, training. There is a lot of activity, both from a failure analysis perspective and corrective action identification and scoring and implementation perspective. All of this, there's one way you can document it, or you can actually drive to the end using these workflows. Okay, so that's what we think is like one of the best approaches to do it. This has been very, very effective, especially if the teams and cross-functional teams are very spread out, because a lot of manufacturing and corporate quality, etc., can be in different places, and you want to make sure that this is happening properly and people have track of what is going on. Okay, and you can go to the depth that is needed for your organization from a quality management perspective. So we're going to look at the final section of, all of these things are so far we have seen happening within the four walls of the organization, right? What happens if you have suppliers involved? In many of our customers, up to a good part of the subsystem design manufacturing actually happens with the supply chain, right? The supply chain is doing a lot of the work themselves. And in terms of quality, you want to be able to extend whatever you do to the supply chain very easily. And to enable that process, what we've done is set up let me log in here, a supply chain view of these workflows. So suppliers also can log in. So when they log in, they get to see all the different activities for which they're part. Not only that, they can also initiate and participate in different types of workflows, right? So from supplier corrective action to problem-solving process, say, you have a problem-solving process that you want suppliers to work on, or like an A3 report that you want suppliers to work on. Or you want suppliers to be able to submit first article inspection report, right? Things like that, you want suppliers to feel as if they are part of your organization. So you can do that. It happens very naturally. So if I look at this supplier corrective action process here, so many of these things are initiated. Let's say you conduct a supplier audit, right? So if you look at this supplier audit, they've answered a lot of questions. And then there was a issue raised out of some of these audit responses required a corrective action, right? So the corrective action was raised directly out of this audit finding, and it added Intel as the supplier that should be working on it, right? The audit finding is supplier development process matching, so you need to practice diligently, right? So action type is establish development program and demonstrate proper practices. So this is actually assigned to the supplier. So when supplier logs in, so as you can see in the workflow, you can see invite supplier. Suppliers are automatically invited based upon who the suppliers are. And they will respond to this. The implementation review is still done by your organization. And then the closeout actually happens by your organization. But suppliers are part of this corrective action implementation, and they are the ones that actually come in and respond to this and actually implement all the actions that needed to be done. Okay, so with that, what the suppliers come in, when they open the supplier portal here, they can see all the activities that are assigned to them, processes that are, they can open the process and actually complete these supplier responses. So here, as a supplier, I'm coming in and completing the process here. Okay, so respond back to the action. So they are part and parcel of the overall workflow, in terms of, happens very, very naturally. All right. So, so there are a few things that we wanted to cover. Primarily when we look at different systems that are available. So as you see, we've connected to lots of different systems. The workflow engine can connect to different systems as part of that, including SAP or CRM systems, because that's where a lot of the quality events might be triggered, from returns to customer complaints, etc. Right? So it'll connect to them and get the information, or actually even submit information where needed. Also, automatically, the system, based upon the data that is being collected or people are providing, it can provide you certain insights. There are a lot more sophisticated insights that you can get. It can also connect to your analytical systems, and you can get it from there. So overall, it is fairly capable, or rather, workflow system is connected and brings the people and systems together to make all of these workflows happen, right? Across the organization and the supply chain. So with that, we're in the last 10 minutes. We're going to pause here and look at the questions. All right. So yeah, there was a question around CAPA. Yes, CAPA means corrective and preventive actions. So there are different types of CAPAs that we do support. You can, of course, design your own CAPA process. Not only is it design your own. So if you look at a CAPA here, this has one type of data set, right? Risk assessment, CAPA actions, root cause analysis. However, and it has its own workflow. However, if you look at this one, it has completely different way of approaching it. So many of our customers, they actually design CAPA process, both the information and the workflow, based upon how they already have defined within the QMS procedures. One thing we want to emphasize here is, when you use a workflow-based approach, you traditionally set it up so that you can support what you already have, as opposed to completely redoing your QMS system. All right. So that's one advantage that you have with workflow-based systems. You don't have to throw away your QMS documentation and redo all of that based upon a new system that is coming up. If you have a lot of paper-based approach, or very manual, seems like very ineffective from an overall organization perspective, you can just digitize the whole QMS approach, policies, procedures, manual that you have into these different workflows. And they're all interconnected. And in turn, what you have is a digital QMS that follows what you already have. Okay, of course, one opportunity that you have is, you can improve upon the existing process, as we discussed, right? The as is versus to be, right? The major advantages that you can get. So those are, but those improvements are based upon what you may already be doing from a QMS procedure perspective, as opposed to something brand new that you have to implement. Okay, so there is another question around suppliers. How is this integrated directly into your ERP system? Generally, yes. When we deploy supplier-oriented quality procedures, the vendors, who the vendors are, who you can work with, invite them into these processes. They typically come from your purchasing system, supply chain, or ERP systems. Okay, so it connects them. It directly gets the vendors. So, for example, I can look at these activities that are there. You can see, right? Get vendors, get RMAs, get POs. So these are all calls, or rather actions that the workflow engine is doing to get that information from the destination systems. So get RMAs is an interesting situation where, RMAs are actually evaluated for what should be done from a quality perspective here. Okay, it's an approach that you can take. There is also another question around, do we have to implement all of this in one shot, or are there areas that we can selectively go after? Yeah, and the system includes all of these. These what we've included as general templates. Some of them are very standardized, like an APQP program or risk assessment plans, DFMEAs. Those are all standard tools that many industries use. Okay. So if you open a DFMEA, it'll actually looks like a actual DFMEA per like an AIAG or a VDA standard, right? So nothing abnormal about it. Whereas, for example, first article inspections, whereas custom processes that fit your QMS strategy and procedures, you design it themselves. Okay, and it's very, very easy to do it. Your business teams can do it most of the times. There are workflow designer that you can use to design various scenarios, workflows that make sense for your organization. Okay, yeah, and continuing on the question, yeah, you can get started, pick and choose the areas that make would be most effective right now for you, for your organization, and then expand usage where it makes sense, right? Let's say, for example, your primary goal is supplier quality. You can look at supplier quality as the first place to begin. Everything else will be shut off. Those are the ones that you get started with, and then move on from there. Okay. There's another question on, is this a cloud solution or like an on-premise solution? This can be, we are providing this to our customers so that they can run it the way they want. Most of our customers, because of integration needs, deploy it within their own environments, whether it is public cloud or what we call private cloud, which is on-premise. It runs on your own AWS, so the data is yours, the procedures are yours. You have complete control over the system. You can extract, take information out, put information in, and it's very, very open in terms of access at the APIs and database level. So everything is yours in terms of how you want to operate it. Okay. So I think with that, we do not have any more questions. So if you are interested, we would be more than happy to support a test drive and or a free trial. Both of these are very, very effective for you to understand how you may want to approach, how you can design your processes, or how you may want to use some of the standard approaches that are available. It'll give you a good idea. Once you have a chance to internally discuss, please let us know. We're going to close out the session now since there are no more questions. Once the recording is available, we will package everything, including the presentation, recording, and the questions and answers, and we'll send it over to you. Okay, it should be most likely by Monday, because Zoom will send us later in the day, and we do a little bit of cleanup, package everything, and there'll be a web page where you can download and view the videos. All right. Again, thank you everyone for taking the time to join. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Once you get the information, you'll have our contact information. Thanks again, and have a great day.